Hello and welcome to your March flower grow along. Today we are doing Antirrhinum seeds or snapdragons is their more popular name. This particular variety is a gorgeous kind of lovely pinky, almost silvery pink. And yeah, they're just really, really lovely cut flowers. They're a spire shape, so they're really good in bouquets. Or you can just pick a load of them and have them just in a vase on their own. As you can tell, I kind of think it's going to be warm because it's the end of March, but actually it is still pretty chilly out here. I've got my tea because it's quite cold. But I look around the garden and there's loads of things coming to life. Like my tulips have started flowering already. We've got a nectarine tree just over here that's like bursting into bud as well. It's got lovely pink flowers on it, so fingers crossed for lots of fruit on that. It's never been that successful for me before, but yeah, I'd love to know like what it's like where you are, if it's still cold, but whether things are bursting into life. I've just noticed you can see that lovely little red and yellow car back there. That's Arwen's. Yeah, but anyway, I hope you are doing really well. I am going to get cracking with this, if I can bear to put my teacup down, with this month's box. Now, I'm not going to do the full load of seeds because I don't have as many seeds as you guys did, because I prefer to give more to you than have them for myself. So, but first things first, you're going to do what you always do. So you're going to take your block. You're going to, if you're new this month as well, then you're going to just engage all your senses. What does it feel like? What does it look like? And then with your seeds, you're going to just shake them. They're quite little, so you might struggle to actually hear anything with these. But yeah, there we go. Now, something that I've recently discovered really good for these are old Chinese tubs, because you can put them in, especially really good for Antirrhinum seeds, because they're really small. And with really small seeds, we want to water them from the bottom. So not only is it good for planting, I'm just going to pop a bit of water in here to make this one swell up. There we go. But this is one I did earlier, so I'll put that in. It's like a one that's ready to sow in. If you keep them in here, and you can just put your plant label in the box with them, especially if you've got, like, I think you've got 6 discs, so they'll fit in there quite nicely. You can put your plant label in the box. It saves you having to try and jam it into one of these. And they can stay in there until they're ready to go out in the garden. So these are really good. You can easily take them out. If they're on a windowsill, you can take them out to harden them off as you get them used to being outside, and then bring them back in again as well. So yeah, so they're really, really useful. So if you get a takeaway over the next few weeks, I actually needed so many that because I'm sowing a load of seeds, I asked some of my friends locally as well to keep their takeaway containers. So ask whoever you know to keep them for you. They're really, really useful, and it means you don't have to go and buy gravel trays or anything from the garden centre, which is more plastic and obviously more expensive for you as well. So save these where you can. So that one's taking an absolute age to swell up, but if you haven't done your Antirrhinum seeds yet, you will see that they are really, really tiny. So what you're going to do is you're going to just tip them out onto your hand, but go really careful, because like I said, they are really small. They literally look like specks of dust. I'm just going to get one out at the minute because I'm still waiting for my other seed. Now, you can sow more than one in these discs, and it may well be that you've only got 6 discs and you've got, I don't know, 10 seeds or something. I can't remember how many I put in each packet, but you can sow more than one if you want to, but I try not to, because I think it just means that the plants end up competing for the space. But it's up to you. If you do that, you will need to pop them on quicker, because you'll need to be able to give them a good amount of space in a different thing. If you sow one per thing, then they can stay in there probably until they go in the ground. So it's just up to you if you want to sow more than one, then you'll have to pot them on. If you don't sow more than one and you want to keep some of your seeds for next year, or sow them in different pots, that's completely up to you. Now, a little trick here, I'm going to use a plastic plant label. You could probably use your wooden plant labels, or a toothpick is a really good idea. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to wet it gently. So I'm going to lick it. And then I'm literally just going to use it to pick that seed up. So if you can see that, oh, you got to go a bit careful. But it's on the label there. Hopefully you can see that. It's really, really tiny. I don't drop it. And then you're going to use that to place the seed onto the top of the thing there. Now you can imagine that, not at the minute, because obviously these are wet because they've just been soaked, but in a few days' time, if they've been come inside the house, you can imagine that if you were to water those, obviously that seed is so tiny. If you're going to water straight on top of here, chances are that seed's just going to get washed away. So that's why these tubs are really good, because you can water straight into the bottom of them. Make sure that the water doesn't go on top of where your seeds are, and these coir blocks will still suck up the water and make sure that the seeds get them, but the seeds can remain in place. So really handy watering tip for you there. So these are going to germinate. They can take quite a while to germinate, although the weather's getting warmer, so that will probably speed them up a little bit. Once they germinate, you want to wait until they've got, I think, about 5 sets of true leaves, and then you want to pinch off the top of them. You can do that with your fingers, just snip it off with your nails, or you can use secateurs to just cut them off. You want to cut them off above a leaf joint, so where the leaf joins the stem. And what that will mean the plant does, the plant will go, oh, okay, and it will send out different new shoots, and it will branch basically. So if you don't do this, you don't have to do it, but you will just get one long, tall, thin flower, okay? But by snipping it off when the plant's still quite small, it will send out lots of branches, and you'll get more flower heads per plant. So if you're growing for cutting, then this is a really, really good tip in order to make sure you get more from just that one plant that you put the effort into. So once these are kind of getting, with antirrhinums, you can plant them out, they're relatively frost tolerant. So you can plant them out about a month before your last frost date. So I'm in Reading here, and that's obviously south. So our last frost officially is actually usually like mid-May, which sounds so late. But you can easily check your frost dates. I'll do a post on it actually, but you just go online and you basically Google frost date and then where you live, and it will tell you when they are. For me, with Antirrhinum, I plant them out I'll probably plant these out like early April. There is an element of risk taking. It's like with my sweet peas as well, I'm going to plant them out in the ground quite soon. Again, they're relatively frost tolerant. They'll handle, you know, light frost. And hopefully now all the hard frosts are over with. Now we're almost into April, but you never know. But if you are worried about losing your plants, because obviously if the frost gets them and they don't like it, they will die. So if you are worried about that, you could plant maybe 3 of them out in the ground and keep 3 back, especially if you're running out of space on your windowsills. That is a really good option. But yeah, so you're going to harden them off. There's a video I think it's in the April guide in the Facebook group of how to harden plants off. And it basically just involves bringing the plant outside of the house in the day for like a couple of hours at a time, and then bring it back in, and then you lengthen that period until the plant's out all day, and then you'll leave it out overnight. And then once you've done that for a few nights, then they're ready to go in the ground. And this just lessens the shock that the plant feels when you plant it in the ground. So it basically just eases its journey. If you don't do it, it's not the end of the world, but chances are it will stunt the growth of the plant, and you won't end up with as many flowers or veggies if you're growing veggies, depending on what it is. So yeah, so try and do that if you can, just to mean, you know, then you get more harvest basically. Antirrhinum, interestingly, so you know how I said earlier, if you just had one tall stem and then you just let it grow into a flower, If you harvest that, the plant will then go, oh, we need to flower again, because obviously remember, plants are trying to just set seed for next year. So if you keep cutting the flowers, they will keep producing. Officially, Antirrhinum are perennial plants, but generally they don't flower as well the second year, especially if you've cut them, because when you cut the flowers, you're effectively taking the plants put a lot of its energy into growing those flowers, and you, by cutting them, are kind of removing that, and it weakens the plant. So if you are growing for cutting, I do recommend to sow these every year. You can sow them as early as kind of like January, February time, and then obviously right through to March, April. But because you can sow them earlier, I do usually try and sow mine a little bit earlier to space out the number of seeds I've got to sow in April. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I don't think so. If you are watching on the replay, there's nobody here live, so if you are watching on the replay, remember that these grow along sessions, you can bring any questions that you have on how to grow your flowers to the flower ones, and then your fruit and veg to the fruit and veg ones. So do use these sessions to ask any questions that you may have. Feel free to bring along photographs of things that you can share on your screen, and I can help you with them. I think as we ramp up into the growing season, that might become more, because things will start to struggle maybe, and you'll be thinking, oh, what's going on here. So you can always bring those questions along and I can answer them. And if I don't know the answer off the top of my head, I will always go away and research them for you and come back to you. So yeah, I mean, let me know how you get on. Hopefully you are finding a little mindful, 10 minutes or so to sow these, and just taking a bit of time for you, which is what this is all about. And I hope you have a lovely week. I'll see you in the Facebook group. Bye.